everybody. Welcome back to In Her Words. I hope you've been enjoying the past couple of episodes as we move out of launch phase into this morphing into what it is. I had something come up with a potential client last week that I wanted to share with you and thought that this might be a helpful conversation for me to have one-sided with you guys, in case someone out there, finds this podcast and you're grappling with this particular situation or challenge. And today what I want to talk about is how to know when it's time to stop shopping your book proposal and pursue a more non-traditional or self-publishing route. Okay, so I see a variety of things, especially with clients or, potential clients that hop on an exploratory call with me and share with me their journey or, what their challenges are. And they ask me to kind of pinpoint where they're lacking, where different routes that they could take, kind of problem solve, right? And so I had this client and we ended up working together, and this was just a couple weeks ago, and she had several compelling ideas, lots of really tangible professional work experience to back her up as an expert in her industry and in her field. And I think she was mainly writing in the academic world, right? But had morphed over into, I guess you could call self-help with some memoir attached, what we like to call memoir manifestos here at Soul Speak Press. And she had shopped her book proposal around and found an agent. And I can't remember how long she'd shopped her proposal around, but it was quite a long time. It was like a year before she signed on with an agent. And then that agent had been shopping it around for over a year. So at this point, it's been 2 years since she crafted a really compelling proposal. And still nothing. She hasn't gotten a bite from any publishing house. And so the agent talked her into reworking the proposal to make it more the angle a little bit more recent in terms of the topic. And so she did what she could, what she felt was okay for her in terms of just her moral capacity. But oftentimes, what will happen is you'll find an agent who perhaps maybe likes the concept, and then in order to make it more marketable and sellable, they're going to, kindly suggest that you change the approach to exactly how you're writing or the angle at which you want to write and the story that you want to tell. And a lot of times that can be uncomfortable. It can feel kind of crappy, can feel a little inauthentic. And it just depends on, at the end of the day, what you want. And so she found her way to me because it had been over 2 years and there had been no movement. She had changed the proposal as per her agent's requests. Again, still, it wasn't getting picked up. And she feels very strongly that her story and the messages that she wants to get across in this memoir manifesto have to get out into the world, right? And she just feels like time's wasting while she's waiting for her agent to move or waiting for an editor to pick up her proposal and be moved by it. She feels like she's wasting a lot of precious time, and she's probably right. And so she and I have been working on some different ideas, and we'll see how it all plays out. But that got me to thinking about, when do you know it's time to start pursuing other paths and other avenues to getting your story out there? I've met so many authors who really feel like they're going to stick to their guns, so to speak, in terms of, no, I want to traditionally publish. I really believe that my writing style and my experience in my craft is worthy of an advance and a big marketing package. And so I'm gonna hold out, and I'm gonna keep refining, and I'm gonna keep networking, and I'm gonna keep, shopping it around. And that's totally awesome, totally cool, totally okay, right? But then, I meet a lot of women who come to me for various reasons in terms of sharing their story. I mean, always, 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 the number one reason somebody decides to take the next step, I won't say the first step. Sometimes I meet authors who are like taking their first step. A lot of them with the anthologies, they're definitely taking their first step. But like for the most part, the singular manuscripts that we deal with, they are, these authors have been working for a long time. They've been crafting them, they've been refining them, they've been working with outside editors, and then they're ready to make the next step in terms of coming up with a publishing plan. And sometimes they come to me because they've had zero luck in the traditional publishing space. And so, yes, I guess in that sense, we're a consolation, but we're also a reality that can actually come to fruition. And so it takes a mindset adjustment and like a reframe. And I'm okay with that. Yes, I think I'm very open about the fact that we're non-traditional. So we sort of operate like hybrid, except we don't keep your royalties. You get your rights and your royalties back as an author of your work. But, the work that we do is very labor intensive, and it's really expensive. And we produce beautiful, beautiful books. And so there is an upfront investment required to work with us. And I think that the authors, the memoirists who are realistic about how hard it is to sell memoir in the traditional space these days, but are committed to getting their stories out there, not only to help other people, but, for a variety of other reasons, they get that. And, I'm all for seeing what you can get and going out there and shopping things around, but it comes with a lot of strings attached too. And so I wanted to bring five. I have five signs that maybe you should start thinking about non-traditional means of getting your book out into the world. Okay. So the first one, I'm looking at my list here, is if you actually can't even find an agent to represent you, or I would put that maybe you do have an agent to represent you and it's getting nowhere. And you've spent a considerable amount of time. And I'm not saying like 3 months or 6 months, I'm talking about a couple of years. You've been pitching, you've been querying, you've been shopping around, and you're getting radio silence, or you're getting rejections. You can do a couple of things with that. If you really feel like this is the path for you and this is the route that you want to take, then you need to perhaps hire someone who specializes in book proposals and figure out what you're doing wrong and what you're missing in your book proposal that an agent won't pick you up, or that the agent, if you've signed with an agent and they're not able to get it sold, then you need to have a real come to Jesus moment with your agent and ask, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be reframed and recrafted, because obviously this isn't getting the job done. We need to look at what's not working here, right? Because time's a wasting and time is money. So do you need an agent in order to secure a book deal with a publisher, like a mid-level publisher? No, I have a friend his book's about ready to come out in a couple months, maybe even a couple weeks. I don't know. I wrote an endorsement for it a few weeks back, and he's kind of like a unicorn because he's already got a very vibrant, healthy speaking profession and speaking schedule, and he doesn't use like speakers bureaus. He doesn't have a booking agent or anything. He just like books everything himself, and he sold his book to like a mid-level publishing house without an agent, which I was like, wow, that's impressive, and that takes some guts. But he also has a robust speaking career, and so he's very well networked. And so it was through his network that he was able to create this connection with this publishing house. And it happens, right? Anything can happen, anything can happen. A school teacher from Ohio can spend 93 days hostage, being held hostage in the desert. Like anything is possible. However, there are, like there are some patterns, if we can call them that, are information and that we can follow. So, I think it's important to think about if this is the route for you, and if you're really, really committed to it, and you're not finding an agent, or your agent is not selling your book proposal, then you need to figure out what you're doing wrong. You need to figure out what needs more work and go hire somebody to help you figure that out and to help you make it better. Okay. Then my second sign or suggestion, I don't know, we're very fluid here in terms of whether these are signs or suggestions, is like you really just need to figure out what you want. Okay. You can you can waste so much time in the space in the land of ambiguity. Okay. So you can also self-sabotage by convincing yourself that it's all just going to happen and it's going to come to you because you're going to manifest it. Sorry, I'm a big manifester. I'm a big visualizer. I'm a work meets the woo kind of girl, though. And, maybe you'll find an agent at a networking event who's going to fall in love with your idea. If you're a first-time author and you're a memoir writer at that and an essayist, that's probably not going to happen. No matter how significant and crazy your story is, right? So, if you've got a degree and degree after degree, and you've been honing your craft for 20 years, and you are bound and determined to be the next Anne Lamott, then you should keep doing what you're doing. You should hold on to those commitments that you've made to yourself. But you have to think about whether or not your angle in your story is appetizing to the market and to what's hot and what's selling. Publishers, book sales, they all follow trends the same way series do, and TVs and podcasts, and like true crime is still pretty hot, right? But think about like before the advent of Serial, the series, the podcast series, like how many years has that been going on? Like 7 or 8? I can't remember. I remember listening to the very first one, and that was kind of like the first, at least my first foray into the true crime podcast scene. And now think about how it's exploded now. Now, on the other hand, it's become very oversaturated, right? So your job then is to figure out, like, if that's the path and the journey that you're going to take, does your story fit into what is selling right now? And if you don't know, then you need to go do a little market research, or you need to go see if you can sit down with an agent, if you can get on their calendar, or maybe hire a professional, like a consultant or something, who's going to help you and coach you through this, so that you can position your proposal and your story in a way that makes you appetizing to what's being sold right now. Now, very few people can have their cake and eat it too in this space. I know I'm such a negative Nelly. I feel so bad, but I really am committed to just being like honest with you guys, okay? And again, we exist to be a realistic approach to publishing, to getting your story out there. I have a real beef with some of these, I'm not going to name names, but some of these influencers who are selling courses in podcasting, I'm sure, or like even self-publishing or whatever, to get you to best-selling status, or, get your podcast off the ground. But what they don't tell you is, like, sure, you can like get the book written and you can get the podcast recorded, but then what do you do after that? Okay. So that's part of what I want to be able to do in In Her Words, is to really actually get you to a place where you're able to take actionable steps and make realistic decisions about achieving your goals and your dreams, about sharing your story. So Jane Friedman, if you've been in the writing world, she's I mean, she's not a guru, but I call her the writing guru. I mean, she has such a great newsletter that you can sign up and subscribe to. I mean, she's just so knowledgeable. She's been in the publishing and the writing space for a long time. And she's just like my go-to when I have a question about something or I want to learn some content about a particular I don't know, like a particular memoir specific you know, writing trick, or if I want to learn something specific about the publishing industry. And she says, not everyone cares about earning money from writing, and I believe that anyone in it for the coin should find some other field. So if you need and want to make money off your writing, that's great. But I'll be honest, it's really hard. And it only happens to a few. I think in terms of like selling that great memoir, and getting that big advance. And even if you do that, half that advance is going to go toward your marketing team that you're going to have to hire because publishers are not going to provide it for you. So you're not going to have a ton of money at the end of the day anyway. So then you're going to have to sell books. And how do we sell books and make money off of book sales? It's so hard. You have to do that through building your platform and building your audience, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, I mean, there are lots of other ways that you can make money writing. I'm doing it now. I write every day. I edit constantly. And I make a good living doing what I'm doing, and through speaking. But I'm not like making bank on book sales, and because hardly anyone does. So I guess my point is you're at a fork in the road right now. Okay. You've been shopping your proposal, nothing's happening. You either can't get an agent or your agent can't sell your proposal. So you're reevaluating, you're looking at what you're doing wrong, what you could do differently. And I think it's really important for you to decide what you want and what you need in order for you to rest at night with this story, with this project. Do you need the stamp of approval from a traditional publishing house? Or could you perhaps take the other fork in the road and go non-traditional or self-publishing? Now, I'm not going to really speak much to self-publishing because that's not our area of expertise, but what I can talk about is the non-traditional space. I don't really feel like there's so much of a stigma anymore to taking matters into your own hands because, especially in the memoir space, maybe there's some stigma associated to self-publishing. And I think that just comes from oftentimes not taking the time or investing the resources into making sure that what you've produced is really professional and really beautiful aesthetically. I think aesthetics are really important in terms of the book cover and stuff. And so that's kind of like where we come into play, is that we can do all of that. And we have world-class designers and copy editors and publishers, our publisher, Merrick, that we work with. And we can really like bridge that gap in a way that I don't think a lot of self-publishing first-time authors can do. And perhaps I would say that somebody working with us, if you decide to take that fork in the road and come and work with a non-traditional or hybrid publisher, you learn so much in that process that if you've decided that you're going to write another memoir, or this is going to be a more than a one-time thing, you're going to learn so much that you might very well be able to self-publish your next one because you've been empowered through the process. And so that is definitely something that you should think about in terms of like, what do you really want? Like, are you in this for the long haul? Are you thinking big picture? Or are you just like, oh, I'm just going to get my story out there and it's going to be a New York Times bestseller and I'll ride off into the sunset with a bag full of books? No, you need to look at this. You need to look at the long haul. This is a big picture strategizing. Once the book launch is over, then what? People think that they're just like, you're on Amazon, so people are going to find your book and automatically be interested and buy it. There are over let's see, where are my figures here? It might be on my other page. I think there's like 4 million. I don't want to give you the wrong the wrong figures. Yeah, 4 million new books are published every year. Okay, every freaking year, 4 million books are published. And that's a lot of competition. So you need to think about, like, in terms of building your platform, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But, maybe I shouldn't even call this what do you want, but what do you need? Do you need just the accolades of getting a book deal and then you can, again, ride off into the sunset with your memoir and be happy and call it a day? Or do you need to turn this into a viable income and revenue generating, opportunity? And do you need to use your memoir as a way of bringing in clients and building a business? If that's the case, then you're probably not going to wait around for, 2-3 years for someone to notice you and pick you up. You're going to need to take matters into your own hands and start getting creative. And that's where we come in. Okay. So here's the third sign that maybe you should think about some alternative methods to getting your book out there. Every time you think about popping on Instagram or TikTok, you want to throw your phone against the wall. That's a sign that perhaps you don't really like being on social media and building an audience, which is something you're going to have to do no matter what situation you end up in, no matter what approach you take. But it's going to be really, really important if you decide that you want to move into the traditional space, right? I've had prospective clients come to me and tell me that their agents love their proposals. They're just holding on to them before they start shopping them around until they've built up their social media following. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. So you could have the most magnificent book proposal crafted, an agent that's totally on board, has signed you, and is ready when you are. But what they're waiting on is for you to be, I guess, at the mercy of the algorithm and start building your platform to the point where a publishing house is actually going to pay attention. Okay, because for them, again, for all of us, but for them especially, it's a business. You remember, it's a numbers game. And not only do you need to bring an incredible story to the table, not only do you need to bring, a certain level of talent and experience in your writing to the table, you need to bring your own audience as well. Okay, so let me ask you this. If you're going to spend all this time building a social media following, building a brand based off of your story, that platform that you can launch from, and if we're thinking big picture, create courses or workshops or coaching or whatever you want to do you want to put all that effort in to building something and then take it and lay it all down on the table for your publisher? Now, again, they don't own the rights to your followers or anything, but again, neither do you. But if you're going to spend all this time building an email list and investing in a marketing, person or social media person, do you, and again, I'm not saying any way is the right way or is it a bad or good way. I'm just giving you some food to chew, food for thought, something to chew on. I'm using really bad metaphors here. Sorry. But I want you to think about okay, you're going to spend 15 minutes to probably 30 minutes a day working on your TikTok platform or your Instagram platform, so that you can build a loyal following and a readership for this book that you hope to put out. Do you feel like it's going to matter to them whether or not you go non-traditional in your publishing or you are being traditionally published? You could even ask them. Chances are they don't care. They just want to read your story, right? And they'd rather read it now, sooner rather than later. So oftentimes I think authors think that they will write their book and become published and then their audience will come, but it doesn't work that way. You build your audience and then the book comes, okay? Or you build your audience and you write your book at the same time, which I can guarantee you is exhausting. What happened to me, it didn't really even translate into an audience or a following. It translated into getting into the New York Times bestseller list. But again, I say this in a lot every time I talk about it in these episodes, that what happened to me is just like one in a million. And it's just because of my story and the connection to the Navy SEALs, you know. And so I don't think we can really use that as a baseline. So unless you're a celebrity, right, who's already worked and hustled to build an audience, like no one gets this for free, you know. Like we're all hustling, we're all working really, really hard. And so you need to think about like where you want to put your energy and where you want to put your financial resources and where you want to spend your time and what you're going to do with that audience, right? Okay, so number 4, maybe you're running out of time. Maybe you're running out of patience. Maybe you have this urgency that you feel inside you, like this just needs to get done and it needs to get done now. And I hear that a lot. Like, I think, again, like the women that come to us have like shopped around, they're super frustrated. They have this burning desire to share their story. They know they can help so many people. They know, what they've learned and the lessons that they've learned through their desert to mountaintop journey, will heal so many people. And they really feel like time is of the essence, right? Okay, so like you might need to take matters into your own hands. You might need to think about an alternative form of publishing in order to satiate that burning desire. And sometimes, we have authors come to us and like, for whatever reason, life circumstances are changing. Maybe they're empty nesters, or maybe their financial situation is going to change, and now is the time, right? Now is the best time for them. They got a window, they're unemployed, but they got savings, and they've been laid off. And so instead of killing themselves looking for another job, they're in a financial position where they can take the next 8 months to really like invest themselves and give energy to this project. And so I don't know. And sometimes people just feel like they need to take the timeline into their own hands. They're sick of waiting, and they feel like they've been patient. They worked really hard on their manuscript. They know it's good, and they've hired outside help. They've had it even copy edited, and they just think it's ridiculous that no one has no one signed them yet. And so they're taking the bull by the horns, and they're going to publish. Sometimes a memoir is very timely in terms of like what's happening in the current events, like what's happening in the world around them, and they want to capitalize on perhaps, I'll give you a for instance, right? Like this isn't a real situation that has come up for me, but like, things are real heated right now in America around the issue of abortion. So maybe I could see like a woman who's got an abortion story, who's written about her experience, and time is now because this is in the news. Like this is an opportunity to write some op-eds and to talk about it on social media and continue to grow your platform using your memoir as the basis for your messaging and for your branding. I'm trying to think of some. I mean, that's a very hot topic. I'm sure I'm going to get some raised eyebrows and some hate there. But what's going on in the world right now, and does that apply to your story? And again, it's about that fork in the road. Which way do you want to go? What do you really want? What do you really need, so that you can sleep easy at the end of the night? Okay. So the 5th sign that maybe it's time to think about some alternative methods is that you really believe in yourself, and you really do believe in your story, and you're ready to find someone who does too. It really makes me sad when I have authors come to me and they're just downtrodden. they're just spent, they're exhausted, they've spent a lot of time, they spent money, they've spent their energy, and they just keep getting rejected. And they don't understand, because they've worked really hard to articulate these lessons and to craft this work that's like their legacy piece. It's their passion, it's their baby, and they don't understand why people can't see what they see. And I think it makes me really sad, because it just feels like so exclusive, and it feels like such a popularity game. And I get it. Like, again, it's business. There are trends, like, this is just how this industry is. But I'm of the mindset, and it's not just because this is the work that I do, but I really do believe, like, if you have sat your butt in a chair and spent a year or two pouring out your story, and you have gotten help in refining it, and I'm not talking about drafts 1, 2, or 3, but you've like gotten your manuscript to a place where it's really well written, and you've had lots of beta readers, and you've gotten like great feedback and taken the opportunity to hone your craft and grow, and you're still not having any luck, then I think it is time for you to think outside the box a little bit. And that's just the reality. And again, it comes back to what you want and what you need. Do you need the story to lead you and become its own entity and have its own journey? Or do you need the accolades and the validation of traditional publishing because you've always dreamed of being an author? So really sitting with it and thinking about what this book needs and what this book wants. I definitely like think about books as like personified, like I remember Krista, who we just aired an interview with her not too long, like a couple weeks ago. She talked about how, like, once your book is finished and it's published and it goes out into the world, it has its own journey. So, I guess really what I'm saying is you got to check your motives in terms of allowing this work to come out into the world. Not to get too woo, but I'm always down for that. Just because you've been rejected multiple times doesn't mean your story is not worth sharing. I believe rejection is redirection and often protection. I listened to our first episode where I recount like being rejected from a contract that I already had with a big publisher, and how excited I was because I had already started dreaming about Soul Speak Press and what that could look like and what that could mean. And for me, that redirection has opened up such amazing things in my life. And it's brought so many women into my sphere that I learn from, that I've become friends with, that I'm in community with. I've gotten to work on so many incredible books and been inspired by so many incredible women and their stories. And that would have never happened if I had taken that traditional route again. That would have been a very solitary, probably kind of frustrating experience because nothing would have compared to the first time. And so, for me, that fork in the road was very welcome. And I've loved walking this path that I've been on, and of course I've taken like a different approach to it. I'm not just an author, but a publisher as well, and a writing coach. So, but what we're building over here feels really special. And it's not because of me, it's just because of the opportunity that we've had to open up space for these women to come and share their stories. At the end of the day, I know that if you sit with it and you really contemplate and you ask your book, like what it wants, what path does it want to take? And you'll know, and you'll find the answer. And if you want to, hop on Zoom and have a quick conversation with me about the fork in the road and get some advice and my professional opinion. And I will say, a lot of times you can ask, well, I mean, you could ask a lot of people, but I will tell you the truth. Like if I think that you're positioned for the traditional publishing world, I'll tell you, right? And if I don't think so, or I don't, you don't have the budget or the time to work with us, then I'll recommend you go self-publish. So I'm going to tell you the truth and I'm going to give it to you straight. Because at the end of the day, I want you to keep writing and I want you to keep speaking your truth and I want you to keep sharing. So that's what's important. So, look us up, hit me up on Instagram, Jessica C. Buchanan, Soul Speak Press, or email us at hello@soulspeakpress. And we'd love to get you on the calendar. Until next week, keep writing, y'all.